Right now, I want to bring in our CBS News Chicago legal analyst, Irv Miller, to talk about not only the situation in Broadview, but also the situation that we saw today in Franklin Park. We're going to have more about that in just a bit. But what happened there was ICE agents were looking to take someone into custody who they say was undocumented. There was an interaction where the person then got into their car. Homeland Security tells us that that person tried to drive toward these officers. One of the ICE officers opened fire, and that suspect was killed. Again, more on that in a moment, but Irv, I want to ask about that. When it comes to ICE engaging with a suspect who's they believe is in the country illegally, I would assume that they have the same protections as far as what they can do that we see with other law enforcement.
You know, they are peace officers and they have certain duties to accomplish, and as long as those duties are reasonable, they're going to be okay. Now the question comes in, can they shoot somebody? Well, if the officer is in fear of their own life, or the other officers are in fear of their life, and it's a tense situation, and they have to protect either themselves or the other officers, they have the right to use deadly force, and that's exactly what happened. It's fact specific. You have to determine whether or not it's reasonable on an objective basis.
As far as exactly what happened in that situation, we're hearing the FBI is likely involved in that investigation. Are there any other agencies that would be in charge of looking into what happened here?
Well, there's 3 agencies that have the power to charge anyone, including police officers, in committing violations here. And first is the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, the second is the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the third is the U.S. Attorney here in Chicago. They will make the final decision as to whether or not any charges will be filed against the officer for, exercising his police powers and shooting this individual, on the streets, whether or not it was reasonable or not, or whether or not it was a crime.
Now, Irv, back to the protests in Broadview. We've seen a lot of pushing and shoving, as Assault reported on, between those agents and protesters gathered there today. So what is legal when it comes to interactions like that? What's the threshold?
Well, there's a federal statute, actually. It says, hey, listen, it's against federal law to obstruct or even impede a federal officer exercising his lawful duties. And if this person was impeding the officer and the officer shoved him, the officer had an absolute right to shove him. As a matter of fact, the officer could have arrested him and placed him into custody for impeding the actions of the ICE officers. So he wasn't arrested, so frankly, he kind of lucked out in this situation by just getting shoved.
Irv Miller, our CBS News Chicago legal analyst, thank you for walking us through that.
Thank you.